Hi everybody, my name is Jordan Fox and I'm just here today to show a little bit of sueding and wiring. I saw somebody go by on the Facebook forums who was asking about sueding and wiring and if it really helped for dolls, and so I just wanted to show you how you could do it, the different kinds of materials that are available to you, and the best kind of way to do it, and any little information that I might think of while I'm doing the video. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to just leave me a message down below and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So there's a few different ways that you can do sueding. There is traditional sueding where people actually use genuine suede products, and those ones can vary in thicknesses. So if you do end up getting true suede, just make sure that the thickness is very thin, just because any pressure on the joints, we don't want that to be giving too much pressure, because there have been some dolls where the resin splits. I've seen it down at the bottom and in the top, but I do have this stuff. And so this is just, it's fake suede. I got it at the fabric store. I only need 1 meter, and I've had this meter forever and a day because you can use little pieces to do what you need to do. Now, I don't know if you can see the difference, but there is a top side, which is a lot smoother, and then there's the bottom side, which has a little bit more of a texture to it. So usually what you want to do is you want to glue the smooth side down, and then you want to have the hairier or the fuzzier side out so that it kind of catches the joint and gives more friction, so that there's not a lot of movement around. So this is the stuff that I use now. It just seems to work a little bit better for me, but that being said, I have used hot glue as well. So the difference is you would just use a hot glue gun, just like any glue gun is fine. I find the ones that don't have these little prongs sticking out the back, or the ones where you can flip it, will work a little bit better to get into smaller joint areas. But this is actually quite easy. The only thing that I didn't really like about it is it does degrade over time, and like in our weather here, when it gets really hot, the hot glue tends to get sticky, and sometimes it like sticks to the outside joint and then you can see it when you're posing your doll. Or if it's really cold, it can get brittle and peel off really easily. So I'm not as much of a fan of this stuff as I am of the typical suede. So how you would do that, this is my Soul doll Caleb fantasy version. I do have issues with him standing up, and so I figured today he'd be the perfect specimen to kind of just do the knees. That's all I want to do, is the knees with the suede and with the wiring. So wire comes in different gauges, so it's just going to depend on what size doll you're going to be using. Because he's a really large doll, he's very heavy, his hooves are very heavy. I'm going to use a much thicker gauge of wire than I would use for like an MSD or a tiny, like a 1/6 OSD size. And then the other last thing that I would use is just some tape, either electrical or painter's tape, so that you can cap off the sharp edges, because you don't want to be scraping the inside of your doll. Some people don't care about that, but I do. So if you're going to use the traditional style suede, then I would use either Mod Podge or tacky glue would be even better. And then you're just going to glue the one side, and then you're going to glue in the joints. Now, all doll joints and stuff are different, so the way I do it is I just kind of eyeball the shape that I want for the knee, and then I just glue it into the knee and I go from there. So I'm going to remove his legs so that I can show you. I'm going to remove one leg so I can show you how to do the sueding, and then I'm going to do the other leg and I'm going to show you how to do the wiring at that point. So give me 1 second, I will be right back. Okay, so I have taken apart one leg on my doll. As you can see, I don't really need to worry about the string pulling back in because his legs are so long that the string is long enough for that. If you are worried about that string pulling back into the leg, I usually just use a piece of wood to hold that string into place, so then that way the wood will get damaged holding that string in instead of the resin getting damaged. And I've seen people use things like pens and stuff like that to hold it. I don't recommend that. I've also seen the pen snap and ink went everywhere. Okay. As you can see inside my joint here, I have like kind of like a triangle shape. Some people like to do the whole piece like this, so in that case I would do a shape kind of like a dog bone, so it's wider at the ends and then here. But I find that when I do that it wrinkles and then it comes apart a little bit easier. So usually I just do it in 3 pieces and then just glue them down really good. Now if I was going to use the hot glue method, pardon me, you would just let a little bead of hot glue go at the end. This is obviously dry, and then you would smush it on there, and then you just use the nib to push it around. So now you can see why it would be better to have something where the legs on it aren't great or aren't there, or you can cut them off with pliers or get one of the ones that folds back. And then it's going to be the same with this. You just smush it around like that. And then that's just the hot glue method. Super easy. You can peel it off with your fingers. If you have a hard time peeling it off with your fingernails, sometimes it helps to use cold water, dip that part in the cold water, and then start peeling that way. And then it's more likely to come off. If the resin is toothier, however, you're still going to have a problem getting all the pieces off, in which case it might be better to just take the end of the hot glue when it's warm still and use it to push it around until it's thinner, and just do it like that. So to cut the pieces that I want, like I said, I'm just going to eyeball it, and so I'm using my suede. If you can't really tell between the soft side and the fuzzier side, then try and keep all the pieces the same, laying the same way when you do it, so then that way you won't lose track of what you've got. For me, I've been doing this a long time, so it's fine for me. And honestly, to do a piece or to do such a small area, you really don't need a lot of suede, and you're only going to do 1 layer. So that's my fuzzier side and my smoother side. And so again, I just eyeball it because it's just easier, I find, than to try and like make shapes and that kind of stuff. So like I said, in the knee joints, I try and do like little triangles. So just fold it so that you get a square, and then you just cut. So now I've got a triangle here, and it's pretty easy to tell which is the smoother side, which is the fuzzier side. And then you just try it out. So it's actually not too bad already. I don't have to do too much trimming. But honestly, that's the best way that you're going to get it as fit in there as possible. Now you don't want the pieces to overlap, so trim it down, check it again, and then you can see that that's pretty much perfect when you smush it down in there. So now what I want to do is just take that piece out, and this is why doing 2 pieces is important. Put the 2 fuzzy sides together, like that, and trim. Now I've got 2 of the exact same pieces. I'm doing 4 legs or 4 sides on 2 legs, however. So now I want to take another piece, put the fuzzy sides in together, and then you can use one of these to figure out where the best spot would be for them. And the nice thing is it doesn't have to be perfect clean lines because it'll be inside. And again, make sure you keep even like these little pieces like this, because you never know what wrist joint or something you can put it into that will be, that'll work really well. Okay, so now I just want to cut. So now I've got enough for both of my knees, and it was as simple as that. So I'm just going to set these aside, and now I'm going to show you how to glue them together. Just use that to keep my string down and out of the way. But I'm also going to do them in here. So I actually need to cut a few more for these sides of the knees as well. So I'm actually going to cut another 2 pieces, and I'll be right back with you. So I just went and got some water for my paintbrush and some paper towel to dry it off on. And as you can see, now I've got my 4 pieces here. So I've got the top of the knee and the bottom of the knee for both legs. And then we'll do the wiring after. So I'll show you how to do it with the leg off. It's always better to do it with the leg off, so then that way you give everything time to dry. So I might just do that and then pull the other leg off camera and then show you wiring after. So don't wet your brush yet. The other thing I did pick up was a pair of pliers for the wire, because a lot of pliers have this little cutting piece down here at the bottom so that we can cut our wire shorter. And so let's just get started with this. So again, I'm just using a tacky glue. This was just under $7, I guess $7 with tax. I find that it works the best because it dries really quickly. You don't need a ton, which is also nice. So again, we want to make sure that we are doing it on the correct side. So you want to make sure that you've got the fuzzier side on the outside and then the smoother side on the inside. And if you have a hard time, compare them side by side like this. So these are my smoother sides. So you're just going to smear that on there, nice and simple. Try and get as much on there as you can. And then we're going to go into the leg, and we want this side to be up. So you just lay it flat and smush it down gently. And then you just let that dry. It's as easy as that. Okay, now I'm just going to do the other side. Make sure you get the glue like right to the edges. If you get glue on your fingers, wipe them off before you touch anything on the outside of your doll. Just gonna put it in there. And this one's overlapping, so it's a little bit larger. Probably just because of the shape. So I'm just gonna trim it here and then also the top, because the top went over top. At least with the scissors, you can clean them with acetone. Push. Now if there's a little bit of overlap here, you can just smush it down a little bit. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. We have now just traditionally sueded the doll. So you can see it's not very thick, which is great. So once you get the leg back together, that glue will be nice and dry, and that'll give you enough range of movement without having any issues with it coming off. If you don't like it sticking out, you can just pull it down a little bit with your thumb just to let it while it's drying. And see, now we're right on the inside. So now I'm just going to do this one. Rough side, smooth side. Now just because that one was a little bit bigger, I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively cut it down a little bit, rounding it out. You don't need a lot of glue. Oh my god, don't get it on the outfit. And then right to the edges. Put it on in there and just stick it down. Now for me, I'm very, like I've been doing this hobby for so long that I know right from left on limbs because I have been doing it, like stringing and everything like my entire life of dolls, which is like this started in 2006. So I can lay legs and arms beside each other and figure out which is which very easily. If you're somebody who struggles with that, just make sure that you either cut a hole where it says left and right, or you don't put any sueding on that piece in particular, just to make sure that you can still tell which side is which. So rough side, smooth side. It is a little large. I'm gonna cut it down just a bit. Doesn't need to be beautiful and perfect unless you are somebody who likes that kind of thing. Personally, I just like to get the job done. Some glue. Side. Always double check if you put it down just to be sure. But again, I've had this suede, and it's only half a meter because I gave half of it to Jade Garden BJD because she does so much awesome stuff for me. We're good friends and we like to share and help each other out, and she's always sharing her art stuff with me, which is amazing of her, so I do the same. Okay, so we want that part on the bottom. The outside rim, push it down, and then squish. Okay, so wiring. I have not wired a doll in a long time, but it is not that difficult. Now, you want to put in enough wire so that it goes quite far up the tube in the leg and quite far down the tube in the leg, just because otherwise when you're moving them, this stuff can shift and then eventually it's going to come out. And I always like to double it up if I've got a lot of drilled room inside of my doll, which it looks like I have here. And so I will go like this to measure it out, just eyeballing it. So I'll probably want it to be this long. And then I'm going to use the bottom here to cut. If it doesn't cut easily, just bend it back and forth like this, and it just snaps right off. Just be careful because sometimes that actually makes the tips heat up a little bit. And then we want to push them together as much as possible. You can twist them if that makes it stay together better. But we generally just want that to be as straight as possible. As long as it stays together more at the top. So you can see here that we've got two raw edges. So just hook squish. Try and get those two pieces to sit as close together as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just like that. Now I want to use my tape, so you can use painter's tape or you can use the, I don't know, it's called hockey tape, electrical wire tape. I do both, just in case, so that in case there's raw rubbing inside. And so fold it over and stick it to itself, not just to the wire. And then just wrap it around like that. And I always recommend wrapping it so that there's a little bit of spare space at the top so that you can just smush the tape down like that. And because this stuff is stretchy, you can just put it down onto the actual painter's tape. Smush it down like that. So this might be too thick for some dolls, but he's no problem because he has quite deep wells, and I can just shove it in there. Probably used to do it a little bit thinner than this just because of how deep it goes down in there. It is a little bit smaller, but I still want to squish this end. And then you're going to tape it. Okay, so what I decided to do was actually wrap the whole wire in the electrical tape, so that way it's not marking up the inside of the limbs. And so I just went on one end and went like this, just to give it a nice smooth inside. Just because he's got a colored resin, I just really wanted to protect him extra. So now I just have two wires coated, and there's doubled wire in each. And then squish the stuff down, try and get it as straight as possible. Okay, so now he is strung together. So unless he's sitting flush, he does have a little bit of space here, which means that my suede is in the right place. Now my wires were a little too long, so I actually just cut one in half. And I'm probably going to use the other ones for a different doll in their leg. But as long as it sits like this, it should be fine and gives you mobility for them to bend their knees to go back and forth. And so this is how you put it in. It's pretty easy. I'm just going to pull the leg apart, stuff it in the hole. Trying to get it around the strings, of course, and then you can bend it like as if he's got a bent knee. This is a little hard for some people. If you don't have strong hands, I recommend just getting someone else to do this for you, or taking it apart and doing it while they're not together. Now you can see it's starting to come through on this side. Oh, but some of my tape came off the wires. So I'm just going to fix that with a little bit of tape. Pull it tight. just slide that in like that. And that's it. So you'll need to kind of go back and forth with it, but this is going to give you a much stronger hold in like the legs. So yeah, that it looks good. It just looks bad because his leg was down like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. You just hold him together, push the pieces in, so now the wire is in the leg, and it should hold it nice and stable for you to have him standing up. If your doll still doesn't pose or stand well enough, I actually also use these little guys, even though these are meant for smaller dolls. And then I just put his foot on the bottom, put the ring on the outside, and then I just do this. And then that holds the knee into place as well, so you can just leave your doll standing. This guy freestands, so I don't really worry about that too much because I have these, but now he's wired and sueded, so that's even better. So now I'm just going to show you how I do it if you're going to string the leg. So I use a wooden chopstick to keep the string on the outside of the body. Like I said, I'm pulling it down so that I can push this wire up into the hole that's up in here, because it is a little bit smaller than what you can see at the bottom here. And then we already checked to make sure that it was good for the knee. Just gotta find the knee. There it is. And so if you're not sure which way you're putting it up in, just make sure that it fits, and then now you know it needs to go on this way. So you just pull the thread through, and then you want to put the knee onto the wire like that. Hold it at the bottom while you're pushing it through to make sure you get that thick part through. And you don't want to take the chopstick off yet. So I always have 2 chopsticks with me to help me with that endeavor. And then we're going to pull the string through. And so now you can see I've got my wire and stuff. Secondary chopstick to hold it in place, and then you leave this on, take your first chopstick out, and situate the knee. So now the string is still at the bottom here, and this is going to go into the knee of the second part of the leg, which again I have already sueded. You're just going to drop this into there. Sometimes it's not drilled perfectly, so sometimes it's a little bit of a finagle to get it through, but you just feed it through like that till you see the strings come out the bottom. And then we're just going to take the knee, put it over top of where the wire is, and use the momentum of the leg going down. You want to push that through first. Sometimes you'll need to wiggle it around to get it out. If you're having trouble pulling this string and it hurts your fingers, this is one of my tricks. Wind it around, hold it, and then you can pull it that way. So let's just zoom out. So now you can see I've just got my string all the way through here. So I always just give it a good pull to pull it through, so I've got more grip on the wire, or on the string, thread, whatever you're going to use for it. And then I just use another piece of wood. If you're doing this by yourself, I use my teeth. Wide. Well, it's a little too thin. Okay. We're just gonna pull this out. this can be a huge pain in the ass doing this. This is why a lot of people prefer to pay someone else to do it. Give it a great pull. Sometimes that helps. And then we've got the string out this far. And our ribbon is our saving grace here. You're going to go through this. And then we want to get this into the next piece, and then we're going to put the S hook on, and then we'll just hook the foot on is the easiest way to do that. So this is the easiest way to do it. Pull it out, pull your string through, it's hard to do and show people at the same time, and I'm just used to pulling it through. As long as you can get it on there, and then very gently push that down. And then you're going to take your S hook where it's wide, pull it up carefully. Now you can take your ribbon out now. We're going to hook the hoof on, just like that. And then very gently pull it forward. And then situate your hoof. And that's it. So he is now strung, and he is, he's got his wire in his knees, so he should stand properly. I'll take a couple of pictures of him standing so you can see, and that's it. So thank you for joining me and for learning how to do something rather difficult. The two ways that you can do it, again, you can always use hot glue if you want. Which might be a little bit easier. I have never actually needed to very often wire my dolls, but I will with him because, like I said, like his legs are literally this long, so I just want to make sure that he's going to stay posed in my room. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. And have a good day.